for the town of Waxhaw. Amen. Okay, first up, we have the adoption of the agenda. Are there any amendments, adjustments, or changes to the agenda?
Yes, I have a few changes to the agenda today.
A few, yikes. All righty, what do you got?
I'd like to pull off item 3 and include it in new business as J7.
Item 3 what?
Item 3 on the consent agenda, excuse me.
Move item 3 to
J7, yeah, at the bottom of new business.
J7.
And then I'd also like to add a new item to new business J8 to discuss the town retreat.
I'd like to add item J9, planning board training.
Okay. Any other adjustments or amendments? Okay, hearing none. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
Motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
All in favor? The amended agenda is so approved. Let's see here. Next up, we have general public comments. At this time, we will take general public comments. You get 3 minutes. Keep it clean, keep it polite, and please address it to the board as a whole. First up, we have a Christina Davis. Christine Davis here? Hi, Christine. Step forward to the microphone and be heard by all.
So I wanted to speak on behalf of the new business item number 5 up for consideration for the speed cushion on Arbor Drive. I collected the survey from all of my neighbors. Everyone was abundantly excited with the potential cushion being added, given the amount of speed that comes down that road. And there's a number of small kids, including mine, and so we would definitely benefit from that traffic cushion. That's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next up, we have Edwin Elam.
To the commissioners, town clerk, interim town manager, legal team, staff, and above all, the people of Waxhaw. 77 years appears in Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. It first appears in Psalms 90, but the 7 is not there. 160 years since the address, we are still addressing the rights of people to live as they will. The North Carolina legislature seems to understand that growth is coming as it relates to your resolution that I read online. Every professional knows that as well. Every person who understands demographics has known what the numbers are, and the area is going to increase by more than 50% over the next 20 to 25 years. To want to infringe on people's rights any further by downgrading their property based on density is not the way to do that. Those that seek to control us or think that these seats, the limited seats, belong to individuals who are trying to keep it looking just the way that it is not really mature enough to really understand what is going on. We all understand why the resolution is on the agenda. We understand that the legislature gets it, and it should remain as is. If you want to try and resolve what it is you're trying to do, then you should take your personal money and buy all the land that you don't want developed and just donate it to the town as parks. Problem solved. But do not downgrade people's property so that they will not be able to provide more density, which could actually alter the people who get elected to these seats, which is also the people's government. That is the wrong way to approach this. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the consent agenda. We had some modifications to the consent agenda. So can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as modified.
All in favor? Motion carries. Next up, we will introduce Dan Pruss. Let's see here. We have the approval of the additional building and staff resources. Is this right? No, I'm out of order. My apologies. I have skipped a section. Yeah. There we go. We just fell out of order. 2 and 3 and there. Alrighty. My apologies. Next up, we have recognitions. I'd like to invite Dina Sabinski. We have someone who's been here for, oh no, we have the Girls on the Run.
Girls on the Run, right?
Thank you.
Come on up, my Girls on the Run ladies. And team. Sorry. Park and Rec team, want to come up as well? So we are here tonight to welcome our Girls on the Run partnership with the town of Waxhaw. They do the 5K Ginger Snap race here in Waxhaw. In November, we switched it to November to help out with the layout of events. And they're here to tell us a little bit about Girls on the Run and present us with a wonderful donation check. So I'd like to bring up Miss Nicole and Miss Amy to talk about Girls on the Run.
All right, so I'm assuming green button.
Actually, they should. IT team?
Slide. I mean, I can talk without it, if not.
We can talk without it with, there we go, there's the
Absolutely.
presentation.
So I wanted to thank you guys for having us here this evening. We are celebrating our 15th year anniversary doing our Ginger Snap 5K with the town of Waxhaw and with our partners from Novant Health. We have done this year after year thanks to you guys gratefully extending us the opportunity to use the town. And we wanted to share with you a little bit of our impact this year. We served 684 girls throughout Union and Montgomery County, grades 3 through 8. We had over 135 volunteer coaches, teachers, community members, parents that came and helped our girls grow and develop into the best versions of themselves. We provide about 30% of scholarships. We never like to turn away a child due to financial barriers, so we gave out about $26,700 in scholarships this year. We have sought to celebrate some of our coaches and recognize them, so we give out for our staff, school staff, we offer up a raffle and we award each of them 5 $100 gift cards for them to either treat themselves or deck out their classrooms. We also partner with, we recognize coaches throughout the season, 4 of them that are nominated either by their peers or by parents, and try to give back to them as a way to retain them year after year, because I'm sure you guys all know it is a lot harder to find new volunteers than it is to retain those. We did something a little different this year. We did a wildflower celebration. Typically, we've always done a fundraiser for the grown-ups, but this year we figured let's celebrate the girls, because that's who we are and what we focus on. So we had our inaugural wildflower celebration, which sold out with about 100 attendees, and it was a wonderful day out here at Red Barn Events right up the road. And let's see, I won't take up too much more of your time, but the meat and potatoes is the Ginger Snap 5K. We had over 2,000 attendees, participants numbered at about 1,100 people. And due to all the proceeds that we made, we are able to cover over 200 scholarships as we move into the following season. And we had over 100, just done in a day, volunteers, people who came in, volunteered for that event, and just helped out however they could.
So grateful for our Parks and Rec team.
Yes, we are so very, very grateful for our partnership with Parks and Rec and with the town of Waxhaw as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
And they would like to present a
$5,000 donation from Ginger Snap to the Parks and Rec.
awesome, and we're going to use this to help upgrade our cones and signage that helps out all the events for the town of Waxhaw, including the Ginger Snap.
Thank you guys for your time.
Well, thank you very much for your time and your dedication.
Thank you.
We're going to do outside. Do y'all have any questions?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Questions for the board? No? Yes.
No, I just wanted to thank you for your efforts. My daughter participated up through the beginning of middle school, and it was really a wonderful experience. So I thank you for your time and dedication.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Do you want to say anything? Okay. Thanks, guys.
Okay, next up, we have Mr. Todd Matthews. We have a service award.
Good evening, everyone. We're here tonight to recognize Paula Ezo for her 5 years of service. Paula has 3 jobs with the town. She's an administrative assistant, cemetery manager. She also keeps 11 guys in line, so that's probably her hardest job. We used to share an office for like 4 years, over 4 years, and I would hear her talking to citizens, and she treats everybody with respect, even if they're not from Waxhaw. I heard her tell one guy, I don't know, probably 15 minutes, that Tom Short Road was not in Waxhaw. We don't fix potholes there. But she got him some help, but then she might have to go talk to someone that just lost a loved one, and she does that very well also. So I'd like to tell everybody that public service is real happy to have her part of our team, because she really stepped up. And when Marion left, I was like, well, there goes all the knowledge of Waxhaw, but she fit right in. I found out later on, after I hired her, that Lester and Judy Howie is her aunt and uncle. Didn't know that. So she's married to Ben. So she's been around here, what, 20 years or so? 22. And lived in Fort Mills before that, so. But, or Indian Land, I'm sorry. So, you got something you want to say? Oh, come on, you want to say something? Oh, she also does, the 101, talks about the cemetery, and I got some good stories about that, so. But I want to give you a 5-year plaque. You know, these people here come for you tonight.
Thank you very much for your service and dedication. It's great to have that kind of knowledge in town. So thank you. All righty, next up we have Chief Dex Wilson, another 5-year service award.
Good evening. Donnie Gay was not able to be here tonight. He was prepared for the last meeting, but unfortunately, Mother Nature didn't cooperate, and the meeting was canceled. On the fortunate side, Donnie Gay is in Lackland Air Force Base, Texas right now, where his daughter is graduating from Air Force Boot Camp. So congratulations to her as well. I'm going to accept the award on his behalf tonight, but I want to tell you a little bit about Donnie, and Donnie left me a few notes that he wanted you to know. He started his law enforcement career in 1994, so quite a long time ago. He served in many different capacities, but of those were community police officer, narcotics, alcohol detective, gang detective, evidence custodian, training coordinator, background investigator, and criminal investigations, as well as chief of police for a stint in Wingate, North Carolina. In 2013, he felt his biggest accomplishment was getting his bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Also in 2013, he became the chief of police for the town of Wingate. In 2017, he was awarded his master's degree in criminal justice with a concentration in public administration, and then he continued to serve as chief until 2019. He believes that he has saved the best for last. He said he's the most happy to be in Waxhaw, witnessing firsthand what it's like to work with the best department in the best town, serving the absolute best citizens of his career. And I would agree 100% with him. As his full-time career is soon coming to a close, he has many regrets, but one of those is not coming to Waxhaw. He regrets not coming sooner. He would like to continue to work on a part-time basis when he retires, and he says until he gets too old to not know where he is, or until they make me leave, whichever comes first. So we would love to keep Donnie on. He's a great officer. He's been a great asset. I've known Donnie for many years since he worked in Monroe Police, starting his career where I started at the sheriff's office in 1998 and met Donnie. So I've known Donnie since about 99 is when I first met him. So a very good guy, and we're fortunate to have him. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Donnie. Well, thank you to Donnie, and thank you to Donnie's daughter. Congratulations, and thank you to her. Okay, we have presentations. Nate Hayward. Is Nate here? No?
Yes, he
Oh,
is.
there he is.
So good evening. I'm going to introduce Nathaniel Hayward. He's our consultant with Kimley Horn, helping us through the safety action plan, as well as with the safety task force. So the requested action tonight will be to appoint Commissioners Wedra and Westlick to the safety task force. And now I'm going to turn it over to Nathaniel.
Thank you, James. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for making the time and letting me be here today to talk to you guys for a few minutes about the safety action plan that we're going to be helping lead along with the town of Waxhaw. So first of all, what is a safety action plan? What is its purpose? What are we going to be doing? A safety action plan is a plan designed to make our transportation network safer for the community. It's designed to identify recommendations and implement improvements that help save lives. Ultimately, that is the ultimate goal of the plan. And so it's an important thing. I think we can all agree that public safety on our transportation network is of utmost importance, and we think this plan can help push us in the right direction and continue to make the community safer. I like to kind of boil it down into these three kind of buckets when we look at sort of the overall kind of structure and purpose of the plan. First of all, we want to make sure that it's a plan for the community, right? That this is a community-driven process along with a kind of a data-driven process. And the idea is that we're creating a shared vision for what the safety of our future transportation networks should look like, and a shared vision for how we prioritize investment in that transportation network. And so it's not just simply a plan that draws lines on maps with fat markers to say, here's where we need improvements. We also want to provide guidance to staff, to elected officials, to the community for the type of investment we need, when that should be done, what should be done, and how we should make adjustments moving forward and measure our progress along the way. Ultimately, the goal is to have a plan that's actionable, that helps us achieve that shared vision and create a safer community, and that's the ultimate goal of the process. So how do we get here? If you're not familiar with the Safe Streets for All program, I'll give you a quick kind of background on that right now. Safe Streets for All, or the SS4A as it's commonly referred to, is a federal grant program through FHWA. That provides dollars to communities across the country to improve the safety on their transportation networks. That grant program is split into two different buckets. The first bucket is about providing dollars to essentially create plans to identify recommendations for improved transportation safety in the community. The second bucket is all about implementing those recommendations, so design and construction. That's ultimately where the big dollars are available as part of this grant program. I should say, too, that a grant program like this hasn't existed really before, and so it's a great opportunity for communities to get their hands on federal funding to make these improvements where they might not have otherwise been available. And so credit to you guys, credit to the town for taking the first step in applying for dollars to that planning and demonstration process. Because the kicker is that in order to get dollars to the implementation phase of the grant process, you need a safety action plan in place that outlines those recommendations that you can then apply for dollars to design and construct and to make the community safer. So we're taking that first step now. The town applied for planning and demonstration dollars and was awarded those funds, and now we're creating that plan with the goal of being eligible in 2026 to apply for the implementation dollars for specific improvements identified through the planning process. There's a few requirements as part of that process that our safety action plan needs to include. All kind of pretty perfunctory things. It needs to be formally adopted by the local elected officials. It needs to be guided by a task force appointed by the community. Equity needs to be a component that's considered as part of the planning process in the analysis and in the development of recommendations. It needs to identify specific projects. These could be projects that already exist in other planning processes, but they need to be sort of pulled forward and memorialized as part of the safety action plan. And there also needs to be a specific safety target for the community, whether that's a goal by a certain year in % reduction of crashes or a specific number target or whatever that might be. And so that needs to be within the plan and formally adopted by the local elected officials. Our first sort of component of the work will be to go through an existing conditions analysis process. So this is sort of the data-driven part of the process where we pull crash data, history, and overlay that with our existing transportation network to identify any trends that might be meaningful. We also look at demographics, where are locations within the community that maybe have more vulnerable users of our transportation network. These are usually people of lower income that maybe lack access to vehicles in their household. And so these are places where we may want to identify need for more investment. All of these things together we'll document in what we'll call the State of Safety Report. You can see an example of that here. It was one we did for the town of Knightdale, which is a suburb just outside Raleigh, experiencing a lot of the same growth pressures that Waxhaw is experiencing. So we'll document that all together, and that becomes sort of the first public-facing deliverable as part of the process, and sort of one half of the pillar of what the recommendations are built on. And that other half is through our engagement process, we'll talk about here in a minute. Another key component of the safety action plan will be the development of what's called a high injury network, or an HIN. You'll hear that acronym quite a bit. Essentially, this is a representation of our transportation network of the places that are most in need of investment in transportation safety. So these are, more simply put, these are our corridors where we see the highest volume of crashes, and even more specifically, the highest volume of FSI or KSI crashes. These are fatal or serious injury crashes, or killed or serious injury crashes. You'll see that acronym kind of used interchangeably, FSI and KSI. And while we'll look at crash history as a whole and where the highest volume of crashes are, we'll focus primarily actually on those FSI and KSI crashes, because we know that those are likely the locations of the highest need for investment. And so the high injury network is a representation of those areas of highest need, and essentially should be a tool, a living tool that the town would update annually in order to maintain an understanding of what the identified need for the community is. And then engagement is obviously a critical part of our process as we're building the kind of foundations for our recommendations of the plan. This is that second pillar that I talked about. And so we kind of break our total process down into kind of 3 different phases of the process. If you guys have been through any traditional kind of planning process, none of this is rocket science. our first phase is all about identifying kind of the vision for the community as it relates to transportation safety, as well as the needs. And we'll showcase, the data that we pull through our engagement, our existing conditions process, and share that with the public and get their input on it, and understand from the community what's their perception of safety here in the town, what are the identified needs of their community, and we essentially overlay those with our data, and together, again, those form the foundation of what the recommendations of the plan will be built on. And then as we move into the second phase of the project process, we'll start to develop kind of those draft recommendations, whether those are projects or specific policy or things like that that may influence transportation safety, and we'll bring those to the community and we'll ask, did we get it right? Can you vet these for us? Is this consistent with what you thought you expressed as your shared vision or identified need? And we'll go through that during that second phase. And then the third phase is all about pulling that final plan together. Again, we'll put that final plan in front of the community, ask them to vet it again, and we'll make changes based on the engagement here during that process, and then we'll go for public adoption. Another key component of our engagement process is our safety task force, which I mentioned. I know James mentioned at the top as well. It's a required component of the SS4A process. And what it'll essentially be is a smaller group of people representing interested members of the community, elected officials, representatives of partner agencies or other departments within the town staff, and essentially going to provide kind of technical oversight and guidance at key milestones along the process. So going back to this graph here, you can see we've got kind of 4 scheduled meetings with that group, all at sort of key milestones in the process at different project phases, with the goal being that we're constantly getting the influence of that group, who sort of act as conduits to the community as well, representing different groups of people, different organizations, providing different perspective also. Additionally, we'll also have a kind of tangential group of stakeholders that the process will identify. These are people with kind of maybe other regional partners, county representatives, or NCDOT, or neighboring communities that we might want to have more targeted conversations with as it relates to aligning potential investment in safety around the area. So ultimately, we do all those things, we pull together, and we develop the recommendations of the plan. It kind of breaks down into these 4 kind of key categories. The first I've mentioned already is our projects, right? What are the lines on a map that represent those physical, spatial improvements that we're going to make to our transportation network to improve safety? And it's not just enough to identify those projects, we also want to prioritize them so that the staff, that you guys, that the community kind of knows when and what we're going to invest in first, right? And that prioritization is built not just on a technical process, but is also influenced by the community as well and what's important to them. We'll also develop a set of countermeasures. These are sort of critical kind of design-focused best practices that create sort of programmatic improvements and identify strategies to influence kind of future investment in transportation safety as we develop new projects and get into more of the engineering and design for future implementation. And then we'll develop a kind of an action table, action matrix of other specific actions and strategies that support that kind of established vision for safety that don't necessarily manifest as those lines on a map, as those projects. And so our schedule is about a 9-month process. We kicked it off kind of right before the holiday, right, James? And so our goal is to adopt in fall of 2025, and we're moving kind of aggressively towards that goal. A 9-month process is certainly doable for us, and we're looking forward to kind of moving through that with town staff and our task force and the community along the way. Currently, our next steps, we're kind of fully in our data collection mode, starting our kind of existing conditions analysis that I mentioned earlier, analyzing that crash history, that crash data that we get from NCDOT. We're also going to create kind of a specific brand for the process, going to help kind of create some awareness about what we're doing with the community. Hopefully that's something that can permeate past the adoption of the plan and can be used to promote safety, transportation safety within the community moving forward. And then we're actually looking to have our first task force tomorrow. So we're looking forward to that as well. And at that, time, sorry, I will happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Any questions from the board? Well, I could just say that this program is kind of where literally the rubber meets the road, because I know that this funding starts. A lot of it can come all the way from a national level, but definitely from a state level. So to have our own commissioners sitting on this committee actually deciding where the projects are going to go, I think it's a big deal, and it's good to see. So,
thank you.
Okay. So without further ado, could I get a motion to appoint nominated delegates Commissioner Wedra and Commissioner Weslick to serve as the SS4A representatives?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, Barbie Bruce, annexation petition.
Thank you, Board. As part of the new process that the Planning Department and the Clerk's Office is going through is to present the annexation petitions, the first phase of that. The annexation petition 18228, the Featherston tract, which is also the Brindley project, was a request that was submitted by the applicant, CH Consulting LLC, for approximately 4.52 acres. The property is currently a donut hole in Waxhaw's jurisdiction and is located on Waxhaw Marvin Road across the street from Grove Manor subdivision. So let's see, so if you can see that the map view is, this is the donut hole. It's between Millbridge and Grove Manor, and then this is your aerial view. So we're working on the first three phases, which is the initiation of the annexation, these here, and it's gives the 160A 31 gives governing bodies the authority to annex property into the town. So we're starting the first three phases of that. So next we will move on to the action, which is to adopt a resolution, which is RES 2025-001, directing the town clerk to investigate the annexation petition 18228, as well as a motion to approve resolution RES 2025-002, scheduling the public hearing for February the 11th, 2025 at 6:30 here in the Town Hall Board chambers. So that is your action.
Any questions from the board regarding this annexation petition? Nope. Very well then, can I get a motion to approve resolution 2025-001?
Motion to approve resolution 2025-001, directing the town clerk to investigate annexation petition 18-228.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? This motion carries. Thank you. So has this petition been investigated and found to be sufficient?
Yes, I have investigated the petition and found it for it to be sufficient.
Excellent. Can I get a motion to approve resolution 2025-002?
Motion to approve resolution 2025-002, scheduling the public hearing for February 11th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. at the new Town Hall Board chambers.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nope. Motion carries.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you very much, Barbie. Next up, we have Ashley Layton, formerly known as a facade grant.
Good evening, Board. Yes, I am here as Janet tonight. Janet couldn't be with us. She has a previously scheduled trip to Disney. Therefore, I'm Ashley Layton. I'm your interim subdivision administrator, AKA your in-between planning director person. I'm here to present the facade grant for 106 East South Main Street, which is the Blood Law offices. Petition BEIG 007-2024 is a request by property owners Richard and Anna Blood for roof repairs at 106 East South Main Street. The purpose of the Building Exterior Improvement Grant is to assist property owners as they invest in historically appropriate rehabilitation projects that will serve to increase the vitality of downtown Waxhaw. The grant covers 50% of the cost of rehabilitation, with only the exterior facade and roof renovations as eligible. This particular building is believed to have been constructed in 1906 by J.W. McCain. For many years, it housed the Waxhaw Post Office. The building has served a variety of commercial tenants over the years, including offices of a real estate company and a contracting company. The building features 4 round arched windows with brick arched surrounds, continuous projecting big lintels, brick sills, and it displays elaborate corbelled cornices, recessed brick panels, and partial pilasters with corbelled drip ends marking the edges of the building. This is considered ordinary maintenance, which they are requiring for. It will offer additional insulation, retains the original 1x6 decking, increases efficiency, and has limited visual impact. This is some of the damage that since the roof is leaking that's been suffered. And then unfortunately, of course, we've been delayed about a month due to the weather. And so this is on the second floor of the roof there. They are seeking to remove the existing roof panels, gutters, and downspouts, attached insulation to get to R25, install 60 milliliters white TPO roof membrane and flashing, installing 24-gallon counter flashing, applying acrylic coating, and applying caulking as needed in areas of missing mortar directly under the existing terracotta cap. This watertight roof will protect everything underneath it. Our grant program requires 2 estimates. They received 2. Wayne County Roofing for $29,950 and Baker Roofing for $34,275. The work is compliant with the LDC but may require building permits. Whoop, too fast. These are the grants in our year-to-date budget from fiscal year 2024 to 2025. As you can see, this is the 106 East South Main Street if approved. It's the second to the last budget item for $17,137.50, which is half of our match. That will leave our balance with still $27,032.50, which is a decent amount to carry onward should more grants be needed. And I did want to point out that most of our grants were actually much lower in the $8,000 range. This one's just unfortunately more expensive because it's a roof structure. The Historic Preservation Commission considered the grant request at their January 9th, 2025 meeting and voted unanimously to recommend approval. The roof was estimated installed in the 40s or 50s, and it'll preserve historical building and stop the damage to the structure. Would propose a motion to approve BEIG 007-2024 as presented, which is up to 50% of the actual cost of work, not to exceed $17,137.50.
Any questions from the board? No questions? Can I get a motion to approve the Building Exterior Improvement Grant?
Motion to approve. I'm sorry. Motion to approve the Exterior Improvement Grant, petition BEIG 007-2024 as presented, for up to 50% of the actual cost of work, not to exceed $17,137.50.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? This motion carries.
Thank you for helping preserve downtown Waxhaw.
Thank you. Next up, we have a Dan Pruss, additional building inspection staff.
Good evening. Thanks for having me this evening.
Good evening.
Tonight I'm here to request additional staff members. We need 1 full-time building inspector and a part-time permitting technician. And can't get the slide to work. Okay. Having a problem with the clicker, I'm sorry. Okay, so these are not new positions. Previously, from 2018 to 2021, we had 3 full-time building inspectors, 2 full-time permitting technicians, a part-time permitting technician, and a full-time permitting officer, office manager. The reason that we have fewer people now is basically just the decline in the number of permits and the number of houses being built. So the large subdivisions such as Millbridge and Lawson have kind of built themselves out. Lawson came to conclusion in early 2022, and Millbridge just in 2023. And really nothing has come behind them until this year, and well, last year. So the upcoming projects are the reason that we need to increase our level of staff. In 2021, our revenues were about $1 million roughly, and it dropped in 2024 to about $157,000. So that's basically the reason that the staff was reduced. We didn't lay anyone off. We didn't lose any people. They were basically redistributed within the town. Most were promotions. Lauren LaFond into planning. Susan Lee has become a very big part of the town. And one inspector did leave to the county to pursue other interests there. Basically took a couple of promotions there for him. So the current not a good clicker. There we go. Okay, so the upcoming projects, which are the reason that we're requesting additional people. So there's basically about 712 units that are currently under construction. The preserve started in December. Blythe Mill Townhomes, Old Town Village have both already started. North Broad Street Townhomes, they're about halfway completed. In addition to what's already under construction, there's an additional 1,395 units that have been approved that haven't yet started their construction. So if we don't increase our staff, what would happen? The state kind of mandates that we provide our services in a reasonable or in a timely manner. What does that mean for permitting? It's not defined by the state. For inspections, if we're not able to provide inspection services within 2 business days, the applicant can go to the state and request an inspector from the state, at which time we would have to refund all permitting fees to that permit holder for the state to be able to do that. So we risk losing revenues in that way. We have never not provided our services in a timely manner, either in permitting or in inspections. We have always provided next day service, and we'd like to continue to do that. So that's the request. 1 full-time inspector, 1 part-time permitting technician, and a truck for the inspector. The costs. The full-time building inspector, the total cost roughly about $95,000. The funds are there. They've already been moved from our revenues. The revenues for building inspections, there is a general statute that states that the funds must be used to support building inspections and the activities of the inspections department. The part-time permitting technician, that could vary. If we get a part-time person that's already a part-time person with the town that would come full-time and split their duties, the inspection department would absorb their cost of benefits. So that could change the total cost by that amount. And the recommended action is approval of the request. Any questions?
Questions from the board? Little question I had. So I just want to clarify. You said service in 2 days is typical and is the goal. Otherwise, they go to the state and...
It's a requirement from the state that if we're not able to provide an inspection request within 2 business days, then the applicant can then go to the Department of Insurance and get a pooled inspector from the state. And in that case, we would have to reimburse the applicant all of their permit fees.
All that potential income. Okay. Well, thank you. Any other questions from the board? No? Okay. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the additional building inspector as presented?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. All righty, next up we have James Kelly again.
Good evening. So tonight I am going to be presenting on the 2055 CRTPO Metropolitan Transportation Plan for our project submissions. For those who are unfamiliar with CRTPO, CRTPO stands for the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization. They are the MPO or Metropolitan Planning Organization for this region. They are a cross-jurisdictional planning organization that works within Union, Mecklenburg, and Iredell counties and coordinates with its 24-member jurisdictions, which include NCDOT, FHWA, to fund transportation studies, projects, plans throughout the region, and Waxhaw sits on this committee. Their mission is to provide leadership and collaboration with member communities and partners in developing our region's transportation system. And their vision is to establish a connected and equitable transportation system that provides mobility choices for the region. So moving into about the discussion on what is the MTP, or the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. You may recall that we've talked a lot about, and you see this figure to the right here, is the stair-step approach to transportation planning. So transportation planning is a long process. It starts with the CTP, the Comprehensive Transportation Plan, which is your vision, so to speak, for what you want your network to look like. The funds start to get a little bit more realistic when you move into the MTP, since the MTP is fiscally constrained, and those projects start to get prioritized to ultimately move toward the TIP, which is your 10-year construction timeline and implementation. The CRTPO MTP helps to establish your vision, again, for the transportation across the entire region. It identifies your needs and deficiencies in your transportation network, as well as helps to recommend specific projects and strategies to ultimately move and create an action plan for implementation. So this time around, CARPO is moving pretty quickly with their 2055 MTP update. They update it every 4 to 5 years. This year, the deadline is April 2026, so a little over a year from now. As far as the purpose, remember that the MTP is fiscally constrained. So this is a demonstration. What does that mean? That means this is a demonstration of sufficient funds, being federal, state, local, and private funds, to implement the proposed transportation system improvements, as well as to operate and maintain the entire system for this region. So summing up, public engagement has already started. Waxhaw has already submitted public engagement back during our phase 1, which went from June 3rd to July 3rd of last year. There will be additional opportunities for additional public engagement as the plan moves throughout the process. From an overarching engagement summary, I provided a link there for you all to review. That's directly from CRTPO. That's their document. Within the document, it calls out some specific things within Union County and within the Waxhaw area as a whole. So it calls out capacity and intersection improvement need along Providence Road, NC-16, Weddington Road, NC-84, and Waxhaw Highway, NC-75. In addition, from the public engagement, improvements are needed at intersections near downtown Waxhaw, and the Waxhaw bypass was emphasized to improve traffic flow and move traffic out of downtown Waxhaw to obtain a more pedestrian-friendly downtown while also preserving our historical nature. In addition, some other things noted within the engagement summary is that pedestrian and assisted mobility improvements in downtown Waxhaw are needed to help to remove some of that traffic from Waxhaw, and modernization is needed along our rural roadways throughout the entire county. From a document schedule, so right now, CRTPO is asking for project submissions. That submission window closes on February 14th. It opened on January 13th, so there's not much time left to submit projects. That's what we're asking for you all tonight, is to consider for approval a resolution to submit these projects to the CRTPO. As you move throughout the document, again, they are anticipating completion of the document by January to March 2026 to meet that April 2026 federal deadline. There's that summary of the roadway submission process. Their additional public comment on the draft list will be available in summer 2025 as part of the Phase 2 engagement. As far as roadway criteria and how things are scored, basically, the steering committee, after review of the previous 2050 MTP, did not recommend any changes to the roadway ranking criteria. So we'll dive into what those criteria are. Just remember, as you are selecting projects, that this MTP is about a 20-year timeline. So these are your larger roadway projects. There will be additional larger roadway pedestrian projects, but that's separate from this process at a later point in time. Again, this is used to prioritize projects to be submitted in the 2055 MTP. And one of the new additions this year was that intersections and interchanges are added to the MTP for municipalities to consider for submittal. I will note, when you're considering intersections or interchanges, again, consider that these are 20-year timelines for the MTP. If you're looking for an intersection improvement on a shorter timeline, that's more suited for our direct allocation or DA funding, which is about a 5-year timeline through CRTPO. Again, this is fiscally constrained. This process ensures that there's available funding to complete projects. As far as scoring, there are 2 separate criteria. A lot of this comes from NCDOT's requirements. Tier 1 is basically based on 3 different categories: a congestion need, a safety need, as well as accessibility to employment or employment corridors. Tier 2, and you can see that Tier 1 makes up 200 points of the total 300 points. As you start to dive into Tier 2, that gets into more of your environmental justice, natural resource, historic impacts, community resource impacts, equitable considerations, connectivity. And then you can see right there at the bottom, there's 45 points as far as benefit cost. So that's also something to consider when you're submitting different portions of projects to the MTP, is you want to be mindful of the benefit cost ratio there, because that is a significant portion of the point calculation. From the schedule, once those projects are submitted in February, CARPO will then provide in March the Tier 1 evaluation, quantitative scores, and then we'll move to that public engagement process in summer 2025 on those selected projects. Where's this money coming from? How much money is there available? This goes back to the Strategic Transportation Investment, or STI law. And there is different buckets of money where there is funding available. So right now, you're probably aware of the STIP, which has a lack of funding. This is the MTP and actually has quite substantial funding numbers, which we'll get into here momentarily. Just consider that the breakup of the funds is into 3 different buckets. That first bucket being a statewide mobility, which consists of 40% of the funds. When you think of this bucket, this really doesn't apply to Waxhaw. This is more of your interstate, your really large projects, not so much for Waxhaw's sake. For regional impact and division needs, this would apply to Waxhaw because your regional projects are more of your NC and US type routes. And then division needs are all your secondary roadways. So let's talk money. So again, the statewide mobility doesn't really apply to Waxhaw per se, but for this region, over the next 2 decades, 2 to 3 decades, there is about $6 billion available for project programming at the statewide mobility tier. Diving more into the regional impact tier, again, you can see the breakdown from fiscal year. That's 1,132 million or 1.1 billion available in the 2026 through 2035 fiscal range, and then you can see those fundings total for this region. Again, that's NC routes and US routes, is about 4 billion available in funding. As far as division needs, another 4 billion is approximately valued for the next 20 to 30 years for those secondary routes. So some of the feedback that we've received and we're bringing forward back to you now from the community's engagements in the past is obviously when you're thinking these bigger projects, you're looking at the Waxhaw Parkway as one of your top projects that can score high from a congestion safety standpoint, as well as access to employment corridors. And then, of course, it also services those equitable needs and historic property needs as well. So a few variations here. So there's really 5 variations of the Waxhaw Parkway. Variation A is the complete section from NC 16 to NC 75 with a 2-lane road section and a 4-lane right-of-way. So that's really the big $85 million project estimate. Again, a large portion of that score comes from your benefit cost ratio. So it may be better to break it down into different portions to be more competitive. So variation B would be the connection from NC 16 to Waxhaw Indian Trail. Same thought process there with the 2-lane road section and 4-lane right-of-way. C and D are variations of B, which is basically the same section, 16 to Waxhaw Indian Trail, except modifying the typical road section to a 3-lane road section and 4-lane right-of-way, or 4-lane road section and 4-lane right-of-way. Variation E is just a variation off of B, which is the section of the parkway from Waxhaw Indian Trail south connecting to NC 75 with that typical 2-lane road section and 4-lane right-of-way to provide for future roadway infrastructure development. Another one that was not on the list, but it's always brought up by our community members, and we've talked to DOT about this. There's nothing on the list right now for Cuthbertson Road. So one of the eligibility requirements as part of the MTP is that the project must be on the CTP. Well, Cuthbertson Road is on the CTP for a recommended corridor improvement or recommended infrastructure need. So the thought process there would be to also submit Cuthbertson Road and recommend a 4-lane road widening between NC 16 and Newtown Road. In addition, we've also done the Waxhaw Marvin Corridor Study, which recommends a 3-lane road section from Bonds Grove Church Road to Helms Road along Waxhaw Marvin. So those are our top large roadway projects from a regional and division needs standpoint. As far as intersections, you also want to look at the intersections of where these roads are being planned. The intersection of NC 16 Waxhaw Parkway, intersection of Waxhaw Indian Trail and Waxhaw Parkway, and 75 Waxhaw Parkway. And then, of course, thinking more of that long-term approach, we do recognize that there will be a need to improve Kensington Drive and Waxhaw Marvin, so it's also recommended as well. So another thing to throw into the box here is discussion on NCDOT's release of their State Transportation or Improvement Program STIP list. That list has been delayed to February 6th, and there is potential for that list to be further delayed. With that said, NCDOT is expecting some projects that are currently on the STIP to become decommitted from the list due to a lack of funding on the STIP. So the recommendation initially was to, just see what projects there are, and you may not have to resubmit everything. The recommendation has changed as of today, and their DOT is recommending that all projects be resubmitted onto that list if they become decommitted, or if they even have the chance of being decommitted. So a lot of those projects that could become decommitted are your projects that are not within your right-of-way and construction phases. It also could include some projects in your design phases. Some projects to note that would be on that list would be the U5769 project, section A and B, which is the NC 16 widening project from Ray Road to Waxhaw Parkway. So I would recommend that the board, if this project were to be decommitted, immediately resubmit that. Go ahead and just get that back on the list. Worst case scenario, they just remove it if there's available funding. Some of the other projects include U5769 AA, which is the NC 16 and Bonds Grove Church Road improvements. I will note that they are currently in right-of-way acquisition right now. Just go ahead and resubmit that project as well. Worst case scenario, we pull it back off if it doesn't become decommitted. Other projects in Waxhaw's jurisdiction to consider to add back on in the event of them being removed is U6248, which is the NC-75 and Old Providence Road roundabout near the Circle K. So that's something else to consider. And then also the railroad project P5748B, the Helms Road grade separation project. So I don't expect these projects to become decommitted. Just to be super safe, DOT is recommending to resubmit all projects. Now, some things to consider is that some of these projects that are currently on the list are not actually within our jurisdiction, so it's important to let our municipal partners know to, or at least be aware that they have to resubmit their projects as well that are within their jurisdictions that could impact Waxhaw. For example, the HL0135 project, which is the Newtown and Cuthbertson Road roundabout, I would encourage Union County and Wesley Chapel's representatives to be mindful of that and to also resubmit that project as well. In addition, for Union County and Marvin, the HL0116 project, which is the Bonds Grove Church Road and Waxhaw Marvin roundabout. Some other things we should also be mindful of, even though they're through discretionary funding, which has a lower risk of projects being decommitted, is to also go ahead and resubmit the HL0115 project, which is the Broome Street and 75 project, as well as the EB 5950 Kensington Drive project. In addition, we should also submit for the Waxhaw Marvin Bridge Replacement Project, which is BP 10.R017. This is just super safe. Resubmit all the projects, just in the event if that gets delayed past the due date of February 14th, that we already have those projects on the list. In addition, I have exciting news to share. We cannot share it. Well, we won't share it tonight, but at your board retreat, be on the lookout for some exciting news related to the Helms Road Extension Project, or Waxhaw Parkway West. We have some very, very exciting updates to share as far as the scoring and the some expected award. So be on the lookout for that. With that, that was a lot of information. Happy to take any questions. The action requested is obviously to approve the resolution as presented, or if you would like to make modifications.
Any questions from the board? Nope. All righty then. Well, can I get a motion to approve the traffic calming request? Oh, wait, wrong one. Can I get a motion to approve Resolution 2025-004 as presented?
Motion to adopt Resolution 2025-004 as presented.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? No. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go far, James. Looks like we got a speed cushion on Arbor Drive.
Yes, so the next item will be consider for approval the installation of speed cushions along Arbor Drive. To provide an overview for you all, just to recap, the Waxhaw's traffic calming policy determines the eligibility for these traffic calming devices, and we are moving towards this rubber form design speed cushion, which are 3-inch vertical deflections, which really have a significant cost savings difference between your standard asphalt and also have an increased durability. In addition, if we ever have to perform maintenance on the roadway, you can remove and replace and reuse these things. So they're really becoming a benefit throughout the town. So we're moving toward that rubber form cushion. As far as the process, there's 2 phases to this process. Phase 1, the property owner submitted a written request to the town to perform a traffic evaluation study. The study was completed on Arbor Drive between McCain Street and Sharon Drive, and the analyzed locations met the criterion in accordance with the traffic calming policy. As far as Phase 2, petition documents were then sent to the property owner to obtain signatures of support. We received those signatures and they're provided within your agenda packets this evening, and the petition met the minimum required 70% of properties within the area signing in favor of the petition. Town staff then reviewed the signatures for accuracy and confirmed that that was achieved. In this case, there's no HOA, so there's no additional step there as far as requesting approval from the HOA. But as far as next steps, town staff does recommend that the board approve the installation of one speed cushion located approximately at mid-block on Arbor Drive between McCain Street and Sharon Drive. I will note that that estimated financial impact of $6,000 is very conservative, and the reason why that is because now we are partnering internally with our Public Services Department, and we can really cut that cost in half. So there's another cost savings there as far as bringing that work internal to Waxhaw instead of contracting it out. If we were to contract it out, it would be estimated to cost us about $5,000 for each speed cushion, plus the additional funds that you have to set aside for signage, U-channel posts, et cetera. So we are expected to reduce that $6,000 down to about $3,000. Upon Waxhaw BOC authorization of the expenditures, a contract will be issued. In this case, that's being brought in-house. And note that prior to the start of construction, any adjacent residents will be notified. So requested action tonight from the board would be to approve the installation of the speed cushion along Arbor Drive. Any questions from the board?
James, I only have one small question. Number one, it's fantastic that we're able to do this with the Public Services Group. And it also sounds like there's an immediate need for these things.
Yes, there is.
Aside from acquiring perhaps the materials and so forth, could you provide an estimate as to how long it might take to install something like this?
Yeah, so it really depends upon the shipping timeline. That can vary between 2 to 3 weeks, depending upon the material. Once we receive the material, obviously we'd be looking for an ideal date to install that based upon weather conditions. So overall, worst case scenario, you're looking at about 3 to 4 weeks to get it installed, which is actually an increased timeline as well from your traditional contracted out solution.
That's great. Thanks, James.
Any other questions? Nope. Alrighty then, can I get a motion to approve the traffic calming request?
Motion to approve the installation of a speed cushion along Arbor Drive as presented.
All in favor? All opposed? Nope. Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Don't run off just yet.
I got one more for you. So on the same thing, same theme as speed cushions, this is another consideration for the board's approval for speed cushions along Hamilton Mill Drive. So again, same overview as before, similar process with the phase 1 and phase 2. It met the requirements in accordance with our process. We then sent the petition documents out to the property owners. They obtained the minimum support, and in this case, they also required an additional letter of support from the Millbridge HOA, which was received as well. So staff recommends in this case the installation of 2 speed cushions along Hamilton Mill Drive, one speed cushion being located approximately at mid-block on Hamilton Mill Drive between Winnett and Bannister Road, and then the other one being approximately 100 feet east of Silverwood Drive on Hamilton Mill. In addition, as a part of our engineering study, town staff additionally recommends the conversion of the Hamilton Mill Drive and Hudson Mill Drive intersection to an always stop condition. I will note that while citizens frequently request always stop signs as a traffic control measure, studies show that it is not effective at consistently reducing speed between intersections. The traffic engineering guidelines generally advise against using always stops solely as a traffic calming measure. With that said, we did look into more of the in-depth MUTCD Section 2B17, always stop warrants and other factors through our engineering study, and found that these 2 intersections of 2 residential neighborhood collectors or through streets are of similar design and are operating characteristics where an always stop control would improve traffic operational characteristics and to better assist those pedestrian movements that are going to and from the little pocket park that's there. So next steps. This is, again, a significant financial impact of $15,000 total, $5,000 estimated for the 2 speed cushions, plus the stop sign conversions, et cetera. All these funds are eligible within POW bill. Again, with the bringing that into our Public Services Department and internal to Waxhaw, we can estimate that cost to be cut in half. So upon your authorization, we will then work with our Public Services Department to progress that project in a similar timeline as the previous Arbor Drive request. And note that prior to the start of construction, we will also notify the HOA, the Millbridge HOA in this case, and adjacent residences. So with that, the requested action tonight is to approve the speed cushions as presented.
Can I get a motion to approve the additional speed cushions as presented?
So moved.
All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Before we move further, I'd like to request a brief recess. All in favor for a brief recess? All opposed? All right, we're under recess. Thank you very much. Be right back. All righty, we'll go ahead and return from recess. Can I get a motion to return from recess? All in favor?
Aye.
We are now back from recess. So we had an amendment to the agenda to discuss item 2 or 3, item 3 of the consent agenda, the adoption of resolution 2025-003 in support of the local legislation for the town of Waxhaw concerning the local government zoning control and session law 2024-57, i.e. Senate Bill 382. It sounds like there's some discussion on this and we don't want to approve it right away, or do we just want to highlight this and approve it independently? What are our thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have some comments to enter in with respect to this. So good evening, Waxhaw, fellow commissioners. Today I'm expressing my firm opposition to Resolution RES 2025-003, which seeks to challenge the decision made by our state legislators under Session Law 2024-57, Senate Bill 382. The current Waxhaw resolution, as outlined, argues against the zoning amendment that requires the consent of affected property owners for downsizing. However, I believe that the SB 382 amendment aligns with the principles of property ownership rights enshrined in the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which states that no person shall be deprived of property without due process or compensation. The current Waxhaw resolution claims that this amendment removes the traditional authority of local governments to manage zoning. Yet it overlooks the fundamental right of property owners to have a say in decisions that directly impact their property. In fact, SB 382 amendment does not strip away local control entirely. It ensures a balance by protecting individual rights from being overridden without due consideration. The argument that this limits the ability to meet local needs misses the point that property ownership rights are a cornerstone of our constitutional framework, and defending them must be a priority. Moreover, as stated in page 2, the current Waxhaw resolution suggests seeking an exemption to restore local control over downzoning. Again, this approach undermines the uniformity and fairness that state law aims to provide, potentially leading to a patchwork of zoning regulations that could disadvantage property owners based on locality. Tonight, I have 2 motions to enter with respect to this. My first motion is to reject Resolution RES 2025-003 that seeks to challenge the decision made by our state legislators under Session Law 2024-57, Senate Bill 382. So we can move through each motion independently, or how would you like to?
Well, go ahead and present the second one, and then we can do a vote one at a time or discuss them.
Okay, yeah, we should probably do them one at a time, I think. The second motion I propose, we make a motion to instruct town staff to develop a different resolution. The second resolution should support our state legislators, acknowledge and support our state legislators for their action in passing Senate Bill 382, which upholds property owner rights and aligns with the constitutional principles. Second, promote collaboration. Encourage a collaborative approach with property owners where the town works in partnership with each property owner to help achieve community goals while respecting their rights. Protecting property rights can still allow us to address growth management, public health, safety, and welfare through inclusive zoning practices that involve property owners in the decision-making process. I believe this approach not only respects the law and our Constitution, but also fosters a community where property owner rights and local governments can coexist in harmony. Thank you for considering this perspective. And I move to proceed with these 2 motions as I've outlined.
Cool. Any questions or discussions?
Yes, I'm sorry. Well, while I understand what you're saying and I appreciate what you're saying, I think we should be considering the property rights of the people we petition for input when we put out a conditional rezoning that comes before us. We should also respect the property rights of the owners who surround large plots of land that developer-friendly commissioners would upzone. A good example of this would be what would now be called the Emerson Project. This was done without a request from the landowner. Why? We don't know. Any municipality should support their own authority to regulate zoning, and to allow it to be stripped away is frankly an insane gift to developers. We're only asking to get back the authority that we had. Not any more, not any less.
Mayor?
Please.
That's all this resolution asks for, is for things to go back to the way that they were prior to December, when the state decided to handcuff every single local government in this state. And, you know, there's reasons to downzone, not just to supposedly victimize developers and wealthy landowners. There's environmental protection, preserving sensitive areas. And by the way, the problems with this legislation go way beyond high versus low density. You may have seen the article on the Coates Cannon blog from the UNC School of Government. The words, "it is not clear," appear many times. And among other things, it makes it difficult to address new uses. Here's a quote from the blog. "Ordinance amendments addressing new uses commonly restrict uses and add development standards. Such actions will likely be downzonings." So this makes it difficult for us to address new uses of land. The staff have been working on quite a few things over the last 6 months, text amendments that now have been thrown in the trash with this piece of legislation. So if you like the fit of the state's handcuffs, then by all means, support it.
One of the things I'll add to this is that we're not the only ones trying to pass this resolution. This resolution has gone basically all around the county, and many of the leaders both around the county and in neighboring municipalities that I've spoken with are very intent on passing a resolution in very similar language. And again, as Commissioner Daunt suggested, this simply returns us to where we were before December. This resolution was something that was sort of nefariously stuck on the back end of a bill that was intended to provide funding for our friends in Western North Carolina. So it was sort of a last-minute addition that was made to a very large funding package. So it was put in a position where our representatives could not say no to it, because who's going to say no to funding and supporting the relief in the western part of our state? So that's one of the biggest problems with this, is it kind of came in last minute. The biggest problem as well, another big problem with it, is the fact that the language and the impact applies only to trying to downzone. So the town can go around and label everything R4 and apartments are welcome. We could do that under the language of this law. We could not turn around and make things suddenly R1. An economic center, for instance, that was put into a rather low-density area cannot be then reclassified R1, what it was before it was given the economic center land code or density requirement. So it really handcuffs us in our ability to kind of rethink some of the planning that was done. But I think the really big part about it that's most upsetting is that it only goes one way. And that's the part that kind of stinks a little bit, on top of the fact that it was tacked at the end of a bill that everybody was going to approve. So for that reason, I support this resolution. And again, our neighbors around the county, our neighboring communities, they have all expressed support for similar resolutions. And there are efforts afoot to create a joint resolution where all the communities can come together and put pen to paper and say, hey, we want to carve something out here.
And I would say it's not just local municipalities, it's all over the state. And as I've been speaking to others, we're talking about those in Western Carolina that are affected by this. and they're galvanizing to put something together as well. And so this is not a Waxhaw issue. This is a state issue, and our state representatives should be representing everyone in the state. And so I support this resolution, and I think it should move forward. I do have a question for our attorney, Ms. Reed. You've worked in other municipalities that have had growth. Being stripped of this type of authority, is that in the best interest of any town?
I can't answer whether it's in the best interest, but I will tell you that this legislation does strip away the town's ability to do any type of zoning. You can't adjust setbacks. You can't require open space. You can't require larger buffers, because any of those type of actions reduce the density, reduce the amount that can be built on land. So that's how I can answer your question as to whether or not it's in the best interest of your town. That's your decision.
Yes, and I guess that's what I was looking for, and that it doesn't just impact how many homes go in an area, it impacts the setbacks that we pride ourselves with. And our ordinances that our planning department has worked so hard for so long to put in place to keep the charm of Waxhaw, it's stripping all of that away. So anything that we've done in the last 6 to 8 months, it's gone. It's gone, and it was done with just one swipe of a pen, and I would say without a lot of thought.
Yeah, the way that this was brought in, I spoke with some of our state representatives, and they said that they only had 12 hours to read the bill. And
that was the entire 1,200 pages.
The entire bill. Yeah, this is just a tiny part of a much larger bill. So this is just an example of very poor government, that this just gets shoved in at the end. People don't have time to read everything and consider everything. There was no debate about it. And they didn't even, when I asked them, they didn't even know where it came from.
So it was put in a bill with money for Western Carolina relief. Who is going to say no to that with only 12 hours to read the bill? No one is going to deny those people that have been ravaged by Hurricane Helene and homeless right now money for that part of the state. So I'm confident that they will listen to the municipalities, and our representatives do have our best interests at heart, and they will do the right thing.
Further questions or comments? Alrighty, so there was a motion or a suggested motion to reject. So we'll simply say, can I get a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-003 in support of local legislation for the town of Waxhaw concerning local government zoning control and session law 2024-57?
That was not the motion.
Well, he suggested a motion to reject.
The attorney just said that's not the motion.
Would you state your motion, please?
Yeah, I'm making a motion to reject Resolution RES 2025-003.
All in favor?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to request a roll call vote for this, please.
Very well. Roll call vote. Commissioner Hall.
Commissioner Hall, aye.
Commissioner Westlake.
Commissioner Westlake, aye.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Aye.
Commissioner Wedra.
No.
Commissioner Don.
No.
Very well. The ayes appear to have that. This motion is so rejected. Next up, there was a resolution to support the support of this. So how would you like to state that, Commissioner Hall?
I guess I'm actually going to strike that one. I'm just going to move forward with the motion that we just passed. So there's no need for a second.
No additional motion? All righty. Thank you. So next up on new business, we have a discussion about the town retreat. Comments, questions? We have a town retreat scheduled for Thursday and Friday this week, starting at 7:30 a.m. Questions, comments? What do we want to discuss about this, Commissioner Hall?
Yeah, I had a question with respect to day one. There was a presentation scheduled by the town attorney to present something around SB 382. it's my opinion that that might be out of scope for the role of the town attorney, and I think that perhaps having one of our state legislators come in to speak to it would offer a greater value.
I doubt we have time for that. I mean, it's a few days away here.
Then I might move to strike that one piece of the agenda then.
Ms. Reed, do you think it's out of your scope?
Well, who better to interpret it than the people who wrote it, I guess.
I was just suggesting that if he feels it's not appropriate for me to present, which I'm fine with, maybe the town planner would be a better person to present.
Ashley, your thoughts?
I'd be happy to present if you'd like to. We worked with Cindy. Honestly, we've had to call Cindy a lot since this resolution has passed just to make sure that we are on the up and up and protecting Waxhaw. I was the one that asked Cindy to present because I thought it was very important to just see from a legal aspect on how all this was going to work and change. That resolution actually goes against some aspects of North Carolina 160D, which is basically what a planner's job is based around. So we call her for second chance advice and everything else. But if you're uncomfortable with her presenting it, I'd be happy to present her presentation. I have a copy of it.
I think the key thing, the key aspect of the presentation is to help develop a better understanding.
It's educational. It's educational only.
Exactly.
It's not to.
It doesn't have anything to do with the resolution that we just turned down today.
It's actually kind of for the planning board too, so I'm hoping they're watching.
Yeah.
My question would be then, two commissioners and yourself have stated that you've spoken to legislators and other people in the area regarding this bill. With our own state senator or legislator to come in and to present information regarding the bill from a legislative perspective, in addition to having either our planner or town attorney present, to be able then to make a more informed decision and get the full scope of everything that is going on, be able to address it from a legal perspective from the board or a planning perspective, and then also have that state representative there as to what the intent specifically or indirectly, however was from their perspective, and then just get everybody together in order to do that so that we know not just from our attorney's perspective or planning perspective, but also from the state perspective, and then be able to formulate our decision for Waxhaw. Do we still want to move forward with this bill, or do we want to go with the idea what that was presented? So if we remove it from the agenda right now, and it may be too late to get someone to come in from the state, but then to have a meeting to have everyone present at that time so that we can ask the questions that need to be asked from those who actually drafted it or were part of it as well.
Well, I can actually address that because WUMA has sent an invitation to the state representatives, and they're working on that meeting to invite them to a meeting where it would be public, and we could do that. But I don't think it would be harmful. It would cause any harm to give us an overview.
Ms. Reed's presentation is educational only, and it's to just help everyone understand, even other departments within the town understand what we're working with.
Would you just be presenting what Ms. Reed has? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So I was still Ms. Reed's work.
You could think of it as we present together. She double-checked my work, which she does almost daily right now because times are crazy, but understood.
Well, I think it'll be good to hear from our state representatives at the WUMA meeting, so it'll be good to see when that comes on the calendar. In the near term, however, I would highlight that it is the town attorney and the planning office of all the municipalities that are interpreting the laws. So what was written, what was drafted, what was intended, we all know that's one thing when it comes to the law. But how the law is interpreted and applied, that's the planning staff, that's the town attorneys. So again, because this is informational, I am eager to learn how this applies and how we can still maybe do some of the things we're thinking of doing as a town. So it would be nice to know this information sooner than later.
So that presentation should go on as planned. Do you want me to present it just so that I'm ready for?
What did you say?
Thursday?
Well, the motion was to strike it, so do we want to
Yeah,
vote
do you
on
guys
that
wanna
motion
vote
to
on
strike it from the agenda at this time?
Is that still your motion?
Yeah, I think, I haven't seen the presentation. I don't know what's being presented. I don't, I have questions about it.
Understood.
What's the objection? I mean, why can't we have this presentation? I was looking forward to it personally.
So just state the motion.
I trust our staff, I trust our attorney, I think we should go forward with it. There's no harm, it's already planned into the schedule, so let's just do it. I mean,
I just received it today, or it would have been on the agenda that you guys received previously to look at.
right. I think we should just do it.
Okay, so what are we doing? Okay.
The motion was Commissioner Hall's, so
Okay.
does he want to strike the motion,
Do you
or do we
want
want to
to
just have the
continue
vote?
with your motion, or do you want to not continue with your motion, have the presentation on, is it Thursday, Friday?
We're
I don't
currently
know.
scheduled for Thursday. I believe it's
Okay.
3:15.
And if there are questions at that time in which you feel that you would not like to proceed with any information, then to hold off on continuing it until everyone is present, or something like that.
Okay.
That's fine?
I think our town manager has some thoughts.
I was just going to add, Deborah Conrad will be here Thursday morning. She is there and is hearing what's being said. She said they are catching HELL over this. So, she may have some insight on. So as to why it was done, the future consequences, I just, she'll be here Thursday morning. And that may be someone else you can ask some questions to also.
Okay, would you be comfortable in that and asking questions of? Okay.
And I'm happy to share that presentation. I'll make sure it gets sent out. I can go do it right now when I get back to my office.
Presentation is in the, your packet.
In the agenda packet already,
It's
yeah.
in the agenda packet already.
Okay.
So are we comfortable striking the motion then?
Yeah, so the only adjustment I think we'll make is that you'll lead the.
I'll lead the presentation? Okay, I'm happy to. I've been blessed the past couple months to learn all I need to know about North Carolina Senate Bill 382, and I'd be happy to present that to you, sir. Are there any other questions?
Thank you, Ashley. Next up, we had a discussion about planning board training.
Yes, in the meeting in December, I requested that the planning board receive training from the School of Government, and apparently I need to make an official motion for this. Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to direct the planning staff to immediately schedule training from the School of Government for the planning board at the earliest availability for
And that would be with the UNC School of Government?
Yes.
Question on that. Are there various programs at various levels?
There's two that I'm aware of. One would be with the Carolina Central Governments. That would be a low-level program. The UNC School of Government would be the end-all, be-all. It's what I would recommend for you guys because, I mean, we've been watching their blogs and their podcasts and learning a lot about the different implications of all the different land use law. But also, I mean, the UNC School of Planning is very well respected, whereas I don't know who's going to do the presentation at COG. It very well could be somebody like me. And as blessed as I am, there's people that are more awesome than I am.
Having sat on planning board before, we went through the School of Government for that training.
Yeah, I've seen it several times. I would highly recommend it. I would also, staff would be very favorable to this. We talked about it, but we were told by the interim town manager that we should wait until after November.
Great.
That's why there's a motion on the table.
Noted.
So motion's on the table to commence training or look for training for the planning board. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion
All right.
carries.
I will get that scheduled. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All righty. Next up, we have leadership reports. Interim Town Manager Richard Hicks kicking us off. Okay, that was lengthy. Could you cut that down next time, please? Some of us got to get to bed. Let's see here. Next up, we have our Parks and Rec Director, the lovely, the incomparable, Miss Dina Sabinski.
Thank you, guys, and I'll make up for his time. So we have events coming up in March. We have a movie night. We are just secured Wicked for our movie night, so please join us in the park for that. Litter Sweep and Shred Day is the same day, April the 12th. We need volunteers for that, and also it's time to clean out those closets for Shred Day. Skate Night is at the end of the month on the 25th. And Kaleidoscope is coming up in May on the 10th. That is always a wonderful coming together festival with food, arts, and culture. We also have at your spots, you have a program flyer, plus we have our wonderful program guide that is out for viewing. Please look at that for all the cool activities that are coming up. Please also look at Facebook for weather delays if we have any. We've had some unusual cold weather for us Southerners, so y'all look out for that. So just give a heads up on that. The PCR committee in our consent agenda saw that we lost a member, unfortunately, due to their work schedule. I am here to say, citizens, I would love for y'all to be a part of the PCR committee. So please contact the Park and Rec office or the clerk's office, and we're going to look for those applications soon to go out. With fun ideas for the next coming years and planning for the future Parks and Rec. So please look for that. Also, public art deadline is February the 11th. There's also a flyer at your spot. It talks about all the cool public art that is up right now, the applications. Also, the Friends group, the nonprofit group that we've been working on, we have applications out for that right now. So if you're interested, please call the office, and we would love to tell you more about it. And for y'all, for my BOC members, we would need 2 members to be on that board. So I'm going to be talking to y'all more about that at retreat. Again, applications are out there. Learning Center bid opening is next week. Yay! So that's really cool. That's coming up. So we'll have more information about that. New things at the park. We had new shades at the fitness area, the downtown park. They're really cool and will help our seniors, especially in the summertime, to be able to get their fitness in the cool. And we also got recognized in the state magazine for Park and Rec for 2 stories, and they are the Smile Trailer, we got recognized for it, and Autumn Treasures, which is really cool to get published in a state magazine for Park and Rec. Any questions?
Well, congratulations to Park and Rec and your publishment award.
Yes, pretty cool. You good? All right, awesome, thank you.
All righty. Next up, we have Chief Dexter Wilson.
Good evening again. So over the last 2 months, we've done a few different things in the different parts of the department, but first thing we did, Deputy Chief Cohen and I attended the North Carolina Association of Chiefs of Police Conference in Western North Carolina. Western North Carolina has gone through a lot, since the hurricane. They're bouncing back. They still got a long way to go. We did go over a lot of the pitfalls, a lot of the where we fell short as law enforcement, as well as recovery efforts during that hurricane. I think we made a lot of progress there on things we could do differently in the future in case anything impacts this area in North Carolina. We assisted the Union County Crime Stoppers with their annual barbecue last week. I talked to Reed Helms this afternoon, and it appears like we did very well on that barbecue. I think everybody's familiar with Crime Stoppers, what they do, and the great work that they do in Union County. So we're very fortunate to have them. Waxhaw detectives have cleared over 40 cases and made arrests on those cases, to include vehicle B&Es, packages being stolen off porches, identity thefts, and burglaries. We did come up with the videos for the Grinch going around stealing packages off porches, and I guess it gave somebody the idea who lives in Lancaster to come over to Waxhaw and steal some packages off the porches. So, but we did draw warrants on her, and after they found out who she was, flock cameras were a great asset there, as well as all the video from surveillance from houses around that area. So thank you for the community for that. Narcotics detectives have seized more than 10 kilos of fentanyl They've also made over 10 arrests in the last 3 months for different narcotics offenses. Just the last month, they've seized more than 3 kilos of fentanyl that were slated to come into Waxhaw. And they know that for certain, that 3 kilos was coming here. So I'm very proud of those guys, and I'm very proud of the work they're doing. Fentanyl's a dangerous drug. I think it gets a lot of publicity, but it doesn't get enough. You know, they've got the fentanyl pills now, the depressant pills, to look like hydrocodone, Xanax bars, all different kind of things that these kids don't know that it's actually fentanyl, and then they take the narcotics and overdose. So I'm very glad that we're getting this dangerous drug off the street, and I hope they continue to do it, get it off the street. Any questions?
No. Thanks again for your hard work.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. All righty. Any commissioners, any comments? Hearing none. With that said, I would like to get a motion to go into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A6 to discuss personnel matters.
Motion to go into closed session?
All in favor?
Aye.
We are now in closed session.